Hi guys, it's Matt. I am a compulsive gambler in recovery and I'm your mind and movement mentor here to help you. So in today's video, I want to talk about relapse and I want to talk about maybe some ways to think about it, some ways to not think about it. This video will probably be all over the place in a bit of a thought experiment, but try and stay with me for sure, or hopefully you'll get some value. So in and around the addiction space, there are, I suppose, several different ways that you can look at things. One being, it's a disease, it's an addiction that I am powerless to. At some point, I am going to go down the old path and connect back with that behavior. There's nothing I can do about it. It's not if, it's when. I think this is like the lowest rung of the ladder in terms of the way to think about it. And I think this is kind of a preservation, almost kind of like a defense mechanism that person is using. Perhaps because they've not made a full commitment to recovery, but nevertheless, that for me is level one. I think anyone I've been around in the Gamblers Anonymous circles, people that are well established into their recovery, they look at it very different to that. They look at it kind of almost directly polar opposite to, I will never go back to that old way again. I have made the decision, I've made the commitment, I am on a streak of X number of days, months, years, whatever it is. It's a preposterous idea for that streak to be broken. I have committed. I have thrown my hat over the wall. I have burned the boats, whatever expression you want to use. For those who don't know, back when armies would go and invade new territory, they would burn their equipment and their boats upon arriving on shore. So it was death or glory. It was, we take the island or we're done. So there's kind of a real leverage in the decision that they've kind of made. And that's obviously very powerful for them. And I really do feel that works. I kind of feel like that's the decision I've made. I feel like there's a real balance between not wanting to just let yourself off the hook if it was to happen. You kind of have to hold it in the highest regard as something that you just will not entertain the thought of. There is the other kind of argument, which is why would I count the number of days in recovery if I'm not a gambler anymore? I've made that decision. My new identity is that I don't gamble. I think this can be really powerful as well, because they say identity is the strongest form in the human personality. And we will do anything really to kind of stay congruent to the identity that we have for ourselves. So if you kind of decide that you're no longer a smoker, a drinker, a gambler, whatever it may be, then I can kind of see the point of why would you need to kind of count the number of days? Why would your attention be on that when you have this new life, you have this new identity? The old saying, wherever focus goes, energy flows. Why would you kind of put any focus on that if it's kind of completely irrelevant to you? I think you've kind of got to make it your own in a sense of what you really kind of feel is going to work, and make sure that, pardon my French, you're not bullshitting yourself. You're not leaving a parachute because you've not truly committed to recovery. You've not truly accepted the fact that you are powerless over it. And you're going to have a distorted relationship with it for the rest of your life. Because if you're 99% but not 100% there is a glimmer of light that on the wrong day, the addiction can definitely exploit. It will be waiting in the wings and it will exploit. I kind of come up with a bit of a mental model for myself that a relapse, as much of a non-negotiable as it would be, is a bit like a plane crash. In a sense that for like a commercial airline plane to crash, it's not going to be just one thing that causes it to plummet out of the sky. It's going to be kind of a series of things. If you look at kind of any of the aviation history, this is always the same. So as rare as it is, it might be someone forgot to do a check 3 weeks ago, and then 2 days prior to the flight, another check was only half done. And then on the day, there was some adverse weather conditions that weren't fully accounted for. And then in the moment, the pilot didn't quite act in the most efficient manner. And it's kind of like if one of those things had happened, or even 4 out of 5, it probably would have been okay. The flight would have probably carried on its path and no one had known any different. But if all 5 happens, then that's kind of the perfect storm and the recipe for the problem. I mean, what I know about aviation could be written on the back of a postage stamp, but I think you kind of get the gist of how it would work. So I kind of look at that as the same within me. If I was to relapse, hypothetically, there would be maybe something that I wasn't taking care of a month prior to that date, maybe a week prior, maybe a couple of days, and on the day itself. And it's kind of that perfect storm, that accumulated combination of events that's going to lead to it. So I want to be kind of really mindful of that whenever there kind of looks like something that might be really insidious at the time and all very difficult to detect. But that might just leave the door slightly open to something else, to something else, to something else. Then if I'm in X mood on a day, or I have a row with my other half, Layla, or a business opportunity that I thought was definitely going to work out, I hear on that day doesn't, and I've eaten badly 7 to 10 days prior, so I'm kind of not thinking as clearly as I would be, I've got a bit of brain fog, etc. Those kind of things combined is going to kind of what's going to lead to it. I don't see it as necessarily like a light switch where tomorrow I might just wake up in a certain mood to go gamble and I'll just go and act on that. I feel like I've kind of done too much work for that to just not be a sensible idea at any one point in time. But if I've not kind of done the groundwork and laid the foundations leading up to that point, then it kind of all hinges on that moment and I might think about it very differently. So it's a strange analogy, but I'm just kind of trying to think about a way that you might want to consider how you kind of look at it, because it can be very, very subtle. And I've seen and spoke to kind of people that have got kind of blindsided in the past and acted in a way that they just can't possibly fathom or rationalize in their mind. And then when you kind of dig in a bit as to why it's happened, it's been kind of, yes, there was certain events on that day or certain circumstances that were surrounding it that maybe pushed the brain in that direction. But there was kind of always things that had done certain level of hurdles that had been crossed, lines that had become incredibly blurred on the lead up to that point. So not for me to kind of tell you how to view your attitude to relapse. If you haven't done it, if you had done it, if you actively consciously think about it, if you don't want to think about it, but just kind of some ideas that I'm putting out there as the way my kind of mind works in true ADHD fashion about this subject, and hopefully it is valuable. Please share this video to someone that you might feel is going through a bit of a difficult time with addiction, and there might be some value here, and that's always great. It helps me support the channel in ways that more people can see this kind of content and hopefully help them as well. So take care, and I will see you soon in the next video.